Carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rates as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
Before you call a police station, before they even leave, they'll take permission from.
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
We struggle with ASU strike.
You have done your work, you have put us to the wall. We are not your slaves. I'm not a small boy. You should have given me the report. I have not seen the report.
A very good morning to you. It's always a delight to have you here join us on Global Morning. I'm Muyiwa Agumofwegbe, coming to you live on Global Television. We're in Abuja, the capital of Nigeria. First, it's interesting how things have evolved in the last few weeks in the country, and of course, most of these issues have stopped at the table of the president, whether it is the indictments and subsequent suspension of course, now the suspended Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Disaster Management, Dr. Betta Edu, or the removal of some chief executives of very critical agencies of the government, or the decision to make certain calls with regards to the economy or the fight against insecurity and grafts and so on and so forth. It has been one form of evolution or the other. But this morning we return to the suspension of course, now we understand he has resigned, the former CBN governor, Godwin Emefiele. But more importantly, we want to take a look at several of the issues that have now sprung up on account of that development. Godwin Emefiele, former CBN governor, is a handful as far as the narrative of Nigeria's recent history is concerned, particularly when you want to look at it from the development and evolution, or the history in particular, of the Central Bank of Nigeria. I recall that a few months ago, President Bola Tinubu had appointed a special investigator to look into the Central Bank of Nigeria, particularly under the leadership of former Governor Godwin Emefiele. And the information now coming out from that report, some people say, well, is some preliminary reports. All right, it's very disturbing. In fact, enough to keep us all up at night. For example, he has been indicted with regards to some allegation of him opening over 500 different accounts, for the most part offshore. And then the sales and, if you like, takeover of certain banks. Just yesterday, by the way, we understand that the leadership of the Central Bank of Nigeria has now dissolved the boards of 3 of those banks. We'll dive into the details of that discussion briefly, of course, while we're on it on the show this morning. But more importantly, we want to look at how leadership in Nigeria, particularly as it deals with our economy, has also been very questionable, has also been very dysfunctional, how that we have seen so much of impunity, particularly at executive levels in this country. We have seen so much of, if you like, abuse of office, in fact, in ways that are, to say the least, extremely gross. And what worries many people, if you care to know, is that, I mean, just how Godwin Emefiele, while being the CBN governor, had been able to perpetrate so much, especially when you look at what Nigerians have had to go through for no fault of theirs on account of this kind of weak and even poor leadership. I mean, look at the Naira redesign policy and the untold hardship it brought on Nigerians going into the election. Of course, there have been speculations as to how even that policy itself was politically motivated. However, what concerns most people, in fact, what gives them so much of concern, is how the former president, Muhammadu Buhari, allowed this to run full cycle under his very nose. Very worrisome, isn't it? We'll be having that conversation with an economic analyst who will be joining us live via Zoom this morning on the show. But first, let's give you some ideas for breakfast, maybe lunch, who knows? You could even extend it to dinner.
Let's talk about one of Nigeria's most popular food. It can either go with gari, pap,
plantain, or bread? Yes, you got it right. It's beans. Hello and welcome to another episode of Taste and Texture. I'm Fatimi Abomar. Nigeria beans porridge, also known as stewed beans, is a dietary staple in many households in the country. It is called ewa riro in Yoruba, or sometimes just referred to as ewa, which means beans. Beans porridge gets its popularity from the fact that beans are cheap and filling. It is easily accessible to everyone and can be cooked without any fuss or a lot of added ingredients. It is a popular meal with students as it is cheap way to feed a lot of people at once. And now let's take a few notes about the ingredients. Red palm oil. This is one dish where you can't skimp on the palm oil, as it not only adds color but flavor. I will not suggest a substitute for the red palm oil, as I feel the Nigeria beans porridge is not complete without this. For those who do not know, the palm oil used in Nigeria is farmed and produced at a cottage industry level locally. Beans. Any honey beans, drum or black eye beans can be used for this ewa riro recipe. I prefer honey beans because of its sweetness. Pepper. Scotch bonnet gives this dish its characteristic fruity but hot flavor. You can substitute with any other hot pepper or belly pepper if you don't want any heat. If you don't have any fresh hot pepper, dried ground pepper also works well. Tomatoes. This is optional ingredient. If you have pepper mix, which is made of peppers, onions and tomatoes, then I will use this. However, if I'm making a pepper blend just for cooking beans, I use only Scotch bonnet and a lot of onions. Added ingredients. I have kept this recipe simple to make it suitable for vegetarians, but sometimes I add ground prawns or dry fish for extra flavor. You can also add meats like smoked turkey, etc., and fish for additional protein. Now let's make it. You can use traditional stove-top pressure cooker to cook beans, or electric pressure cooker if preferred. Chop the onions at least 1 or 2. Wash the beans at least twice in cold water and pour in a container to drain. Pour the beans into the pressure cooker. Add onions and pour enough water to cover the beans. Close the valve of the pressure cooker and level until it reaches full pressure. This should take more than 15 minutes. Once it reaches full pressure, reduce the heat and leave for additional 15 minutes for beans to cook. If you are using a pot, follow the first 2 steps, then pour the beans and onions into a pot with similar beans to water ratio. Take one, place the hob and allow to cook until the beans become soft. This could take 1 hour to 1 hour 30 minutes depending on the type of beans. If the water dries up before the beans become soft, you may add a little more water to the pot. While the beans is cooking, you can start preparing the sauce. Remove the stock from the Scotch bonnet pepper and peel the remaining onion. Add in a blender with a little water and allow to puree coarsely. Pour the palm oil in a non-stick pot big enough to cook the beans and leave for like 3 minutes. We don't want to bleach the oil here. Pour the pepper and onion, blend in a bouillon cube and small salt. Reduce the heat and cook for 15 to 20 minutes so you are left with a few fried stew. Removed from heat. Cook out from heat and allow to cool down naturally to depressurize. This should take around 15 minutes. Once the pot is adequately cooled, unlock the lid. The beans should be very soft and the liquid should have reduced significantly. Do not drain whatever liquid is left, as it's not lose its flavor of the beans. Tip the beans into a pot containing the sauce. If you are cooking in a pot, do the same. Stir the content of the pot and allow to cook under low heat. Taste and more salt if required. Stir every few minutes and allow to cook for around 10 minutes before removing from heat. Serve on its own or with some gari, fermented cassava meal, sprinkled over. If you are not sure what to eat beans with, here are some other ideas. Dodo, fried plantain, bread, yam, rice, oggy, pap. That's all for now. Bye.
Thank you so much, Fatima, for that brilliant recipe for ewa riro that you just brought us this morning. Every other day, Monday through Friday in particular, I mean, you just give us a reason to want to be a bit more creative, innovative with the things that we cook or what to get or grab for breakfast or for lunch. So we keep our fingers crossed. So while we're trying this one out, we look forward to what you will be recommending tomorrow. Okay, so business has evolved in Nigeria again in the last couple of days, particularly as it has to do with the foreign exchange, that is the FX segment of the economy. Of course, there's no news that in the last few years, particularly following the recession, the last recession that the world had to deal with, again on the back of COVID-19 and the impacts, the adverse impact, I must say, it had on economies across the world, including back at home in Nigeria. We realize that we have had so much of constraints economically. However, our peculiarity back at home has been access to foreign exchange. Of course, for those who follow business news a lot, you'd naturally be familiar with the back and forth between the CBN and some airlines with regards to repatriation of their revenues and so on and so forth. Just a few days ago, news came through that obligation was standing at about 7 billion. I mean, the FX obligation of the CBN, was about 7 billion. However, we got to understand that somewhere around 2 billion had been cleared, but then it's still humongous, given the volume of what is left now as outstanding. And then questions just spring up naturally as to how we find ourselves in this sort of debacle where foreign exchange has become more like an albatross for our country, in the manner of speaking. At a point, the former CBN governor, Sanusi Lamido Sanusi, had said, look, Nigeria cannot afford as a country to have this multifaceted, this proliferation of exchange rates windows. So, for example, you have the I&E window, which is the importers and exporters window. You have the one for those who want to pay tuition. You have the one for those who want to do this or that. And people are saying, I mean, pundits in economics are saying, Nigeria has got to merge all these FX windows, unify them. Of course, fast forward to when President Bola Tinubu took over office, that was a marching order, one of the very first marching orders that he gave to the acting CBN governor then. But the question is, has it answered the need? Has it plugged that gap? The economists who have said continually in the last several years to say, Nigeria has got to be more indigenous in the way it thinks about its economy. By that, they are saying specifically Nigeria as a country must take the bull by the horns, must be proactive, must find courage, all right, to do more of local production in such a way that we can export, all right, and earn foreign exchange. But today, that doesn't, that's obviously not where we are, because we are still largely an import-dependent nation. And it's a no-brainer that for a country who lives that way, for a country whose economic reality is to depend, for the most part, on items imported, in some cases, and very sadly so, toothpicks and handkerchiefs, and even, shamefully too, some of the flags that we use in Nigeria, they come from Asia, all right? But maybe that's a story for another day. But what it means is we will be able to strengthen the Naira better. We will be able to make the Naira stronger against the greenback, that is against the US dollar, if we produce more at home and take to the international market, because it is competitive. You can't continue to import all sorts, everything, canned food. Cocoa is taken from Nigeria to Europe, Switzerland, for instance, and then we bring back chocolates. We take crude from here, we go refine, and then we bring back petrol. Question is, what happens to all the byproducts that naturally come with black gold, that is crude oil, as it's called? Let's join Kikelama Okere on a business roundup.
The World Bank says weaknesses in sub-Saharan Africa's biggest economies, Nigeria, South Africa, and Angola, will limit the region growth in 2024. The Bretton Woods Institute stated this in its Global Economic Prospects for 2024, where it disclosed that the global economy is set for its worst performance in 3 decades. According to the report, the SSA region is projected to grow at 3.8% in 2024 and 4.1% in 2025 due to the reduction in inflation and ease in monetary policies. Furthermore, the report noted that the slow growth region's largest economies, Nigeria, South, and Angola, will drag down overall growth in the region, excluding the region's largest economies. The sub-Saharan region will see an uptick in growth from its projected 3.8% in 2024 and 4.1% in 2025 to 5% in 2024 and 5.3% in 2025. According to the growth projection for Nigeria and South Africa, the bank pegged economic growth in Nigeria for 2024 at 3.3% and 3.7% in 2025. It noted that the cash scarcity and low oil production at the beginning of the year badly hurt the economy in 2023, but expects inflation in 2024 to ease as a new reform bear fruits. For South Africa, whose economy in 2023 was bedraggled by a surge in power cuts and transport in bottleneck greatly undermined the manufacturing sector, growth was forecasted at 1.3% and 1.5% in 2024 and 2025 respectively. The 9 oil-producing states in Nigeria saw their domestic debt stock drop from a record high of 1.66 trillion naira recorded as of June 2023 to 1.58 trillion naira by the end of September 2023. This represents a decline of 107.6 billion naira in 3 months. This is according to the debt profile as released by the Debt Management Office. The 9 states received a sum of 127.7 billion naira, that is 13% oil derivative fund from the federal government in the same period, a sharp decline from the 249.6 billion naira received in the previous quarter. The DMO had reported that Nigeria debt profile increased slightly from 87.37 trillion naira recorded as of June 2023 to 87.91 trillion naira by the end of third quarter, largely driven by increased domestic federal government borrowing. A breakdown of the data by DMO revealed that federal government domestic debt rose from 48.31 trillion naira to 50.19 trillion naira in the review period, while state debt, including the Federal Capital Territory, dropped marginally from 5.81 trillion naira to 5.744 trillion naira. External debt, on the other hand, declined from $43.16 billion to $41.59 billion in the period under review. Following the redemption of $500 million Eurobond and the payment of $413.86 million as first principal repayment of the $3.4 billion loan from the IMF in 2020. Further analysis revealed that on a year-to-date basis, the 9 states' domestic debt profile increased by 88.69 billion naira, with Delta State owing the largest from the list. Kikelomo Okeri, Global Television News.
Thank you so very much, Kikelomo, for that business update there. By the way, we understand that the Supreme Court has scheduled delivery of judgments in the Kano gubernatorial election for tomorrow, being Friday. So Global Television will keep tabs on that for you. But remember that it's just one of the series of the election matters arising from the 2023 general election cycle that the Supreme Court will have to adjudicate on. But Kano is a special case in a sense because of, one, the cosmopolitan nature of Kano. Some people say Kano is the Lagos of the North. But whether that is true of politics or not is an entirely different kettle of fish. But let's talk about Kano for a second. We understand that Governor Abba Yusuf had been declared the governor of that state following the March 18 governorship election. However, that was not to be the case permanently, because the PDP and its candidates would eventually go to court, go to the tribunal, first of all, to challenge it, all right, and the tribunal delivered judgment in favor of the PDP and its candidates. And then, of course, Governor Abba Yusuf had to appeal appeal court upheld the judgment of the tribunal, and then again, Governor Abba Yusuf and the NNPP, that's the New Nigeria People's Party, escalated their matter to the Supreme Court. So briefs have been adopted by parties, and the Supreme Court says tomorrow is Judgment Day. Kano is quite a big state. Kano is a commercial city. Kano has also had its own political back and forth. Of course, people say the two, if you like, the two gladiators in Kano politics as it stands today are the former governor of the state, talking about engineer Kwankwaso, all right, Rabiu Kwankwaso, that is, and then of course, the immediate past governor of the state, now the national chairman of the ruling All Progressives Congress, the APC, talking about Dr. Umar Abdullahi Ganduje, all right. Of course, the NNPP has Kano in its, has produced the first governor in Nigeria, starting with Kano. Of course, Kano is the stronghold of the NNPP, and then, of course, Ganduje and his former principal, talking about Kwankwaso, at loggerheads now. So it's more like what you would, for want of better words, refer to as clash of titans. So we've seen so much of speculations. We have even seen protests away from Kano, away from the north. Somewhere in the west, not just a matter of days ago, of people trying to protest in favor of some certain entities and so on and so forth. But of course, the court, as we know it naturally, is insulated from public opinions and all of the sentiments that fly on and off social media. So in the final analysis, tomorrow is pivotal for not just Kano State, for not just Governor Abba Yusuf and the NNPP on the one hand, and the PDP and its candidate on the other hand, but it is also for the INEC, that is the Independent National Electoral Commission, and for our electoral process and how we conduct ourselves in terms of our electioneering in this country. There are people who have said, look, Nigeria has come too far to still be a country whose electoral processes or outcomes are determined by the courts. That closure should be at that point where INEC declares a candidate. But then again, it's easier said than done, because as it stands today, first of all, we understand in the eye of the law, everybody has the rights, inherently so, all right, to go to court and seek redress where they feel their rights have been infringed upon, where they feel they've not been fairly treated. It is how it should be, naturally. But the argument by some others is, if we had a political system, an electoral system, and more importantly, an umpire that is unbiased, that is robust, that is vibrant, that has all the tools that it needs in its kits, that has, in his toolbox, that has all the funding, everything else that it requires. It should be such that once INEC, as the umpire, declares candidates as having won an election, there may be no need to go to court, except maybe in a handful of cases. But it is almost the tradition in Nigeria since 1999 that after every election cycle, 99, 2003, 2007, 2011, 2015, 2019, and even 2023 has not been different. Virtually every state ends up in court in terms of the gubernatorial election. But of course, at the presidential level, it is the same. It has been like that since 1999. It starts with former presidents Chief Olusegun Obasanjo and Olufalaye back in the day. So it has been a pattern, there's a trajectory to it, but let's lighten up the mood a little. Here's Chung Animel Joseph with entertainment news.
Singer and songwriter Tiwatope Omolara Savage, popularly known as Tiwa Savage, has filed a petition against Afrobeat star David Adeleke, popularly known as Davido, over an alleged threat to her life. Savage, in a petition addressed to the Lagos State Commissioner of Police, Fayode Adegoke, and circulating online, alleged that the Omo Babalowo crooner threatened her over a social media exchange. She asked the police boss to hold Davido responsible if anything untoward happened to her, adding that Davido had asked their mutual connections to warn her. Savage explained that the misunderstanding may not be unconnected to her relationship with Sophia Momodu, Davido's baby mama, whom Davido was having issues with. The boost on social media on Saturday, January 6, 2024, as popular Afrobeat artists David Adeleke and Tiwa Savage unfollow each other. Davido and Tiwa Savage were known to have both children attended the same school and had been seen on several occasions enjoying each other's company. However, there have been diverse speculations as to what could have informed both top artists on following each other, with some fans opining that the move could be a result of the waxing friendship between Savage and Sophia Momodu, the mother of Davido's first child, Imade. Dwayne Kefe Davis, a former Los Angeles area gang leader linked to the unresolved murder of rapper Tupac Shakur, has been granted $750,000 bail after appearing in court on Tuesday. Davis was arrested in September 2023 on charge of murder with the use of a deadly weapon. His release on bail comes after significant restrictions, including electronic monitoring and house arrests. This decision aligns with the principle of presumption of innocence, allowing Davis to await trials outside of jail while ensuring public safety and preventing potential flight risk. Davis' legal team argued that he possessed no threat to society or flight risk, further highlighting his no guilty plea. They maintained that any past statement regarding Tupac's murder was purely for entertainment and financial gain. Prosecutors, however, contested the bail request, emphasizing Davis' alleged past involvement in violent activities and the seriousness of the murder charge. Judge Curley Kerner carefully considered both arguments, ultimately granting bail under strict conditions. This decision upholds the legal right to bail while acknowledging the gravity of the accusations and potential public safety concerns. It's important to remember that Davis is still considered innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. The ongoing investigation and trial will determine the truth behind Tupac Shakur's tragic death. Chong Annamel Joseph reporting for Global TV.
Interesting. That's been a long time coming. Tupac died in 1996. He's 27 years and counting down the line. Here's where we are now. We're taking a break. Up next is the Global AM News. We're back shortly with the rest of the show for you. Do stay with us.
And welcome to all our viewers in Nigeria and around the world to AM News on Global Television. We are live in the nation's capital, Abuja. I am Anthony Momodu. The Supreme Court has scheduled Friday, January 12, 2024 for judgment in the governorship dispute of Kano State between the APC and NNPP. Abba Kabir Yusuf, a member of the New Nigerian People's Party, was declared winner of the Kano State governorship election held on 18 March by Nigeria's Electoral Commission, INEC. However, the All Progressive Congress APC challenged the outcome of the election, alleging electoral malpractices and asking its governorship candidate at the polls, Nasiru Gawuna, be declared winner of the election. The Kano State Governorship Election Petition Tribunal and the Court of Appeal in Abuja upheld Gawuna's case and nullified Governor Yusuf's election. Dissatisfied with the appeal court's judgment, Abba Kabir Yusuf proceeded to the Supreme Court. A senior counsel in the matter told the press that the Apex Court has instructed both parties to have only 2 lawyers in attendance. President Bola Tinubu has slashed the number of officials that will accompany him and other top government officials on any foreign trip. The measure, according to the presidential spokesman, Ajuri Ngilale, is part of a broader effort to cut costs. Speaking while briefing State House correspondent at the presidential villa in Abuja, Ngilale said the cost-cutting exercise affects the entire apparatus of the federal government, including Office of the President, Vice President, and First Lady. According to the new policy, the President has directed that local security agencies should be used for his protection whenever he travels to any state, instead of traveling with a high number of security details from Abuja. He also stated that the same measure should be adopted for both Vice President Kashim Shettima and First Lady Remi Tinubu. President Bola Tinubu has summoned the Minister of Interior, Olubimi Tunji Ojo, over his alleged involvement of the controversial 438 million naira contract scandal involving the suspended Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation, Betta Edu. Tunji Ojo was summoned by the President on Tuesday. The minister is expected to explain his role in the contract awarded to New Planet Project Limited, a firm linked to him. A leaked memo being circulated online showed that a firm linked to the minister received a substantial sum labeled as consultancy fees from the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, has seized the passports of the suspended Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation, Betta Edu, and her predecessor, Sadiya Omar Farouk, over the ongoing investigations into scandals in the ministry. As the EFCC interrogated the suspended minister over the 44 billion naira fraud uncovered in the ministry, it was learned that managing directors of 3 commercial banks were also questioned on Tuesday over the fraud. It was learned that her personal and official passports were taken away by detectives, and she was barred from traveling out of the country. Her predecessor, Omar Farouk, had been quizzed by investigators for 12 hours on Monday in connection with the probe into the 37.1 billion naira allegedly laundered during her tenure in office through a contractor, James Okwete. The ex-minister's passport was also seized as part of her bail conditions before she was subsequently released late Monday night. Following the suspension of the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation, the ministry's permanent secretary, Abel Olumuyiwa Eniton, has assumed responsibility for the ministry. His action is in line with the directive of President Bola Tinubu, who suspended Edu on Monday over the alleged payment of public funds into private accounts. Eniton assumed the responsibility after a letter to that effect from the Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation was given to him Monday night. Recall that President Tinubu, through his special advisor, media and publicity, Ajuri Ngilale, had directed the suspended minister to hand over to the permanent secretary of the Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation. New developments in the Christmas Eve attack on Plateau State villages revealed the recent apprehension of 3 individuals associated with a gun-running syndicate linked to the incident. The Nigerian police force, during a press briefing in Abuja, disclosed the arrest alongside 64 others involved in various crimes nationwide, including kidnapping, gun running, one-chance armed robbery, banditry, and culpable homicide. Kikelomo Okere completes the story.
The first public relations officer, Muyiwa Adejobi, stated that the Plateau suspects are presently in police custody, actively cooperating in the ongoing investigation. The arrest, conducted by the Nigerian Police Force Intelligence Department Tactical Team and DFI and STS, resulted in the seizure of significant evidence, including 5,454 rounds of live ammunition, 300 live cartridge, 50 empty ammunition shell, 68 rifle, and 33 ATM cards. Earlier, the Plateau State Police Command had announced the arrest of 8 suspects related to the recent killing in the state.
The very first of such instances that we will be bringing to your notice today is the Yellowtail period attack on some villages in Plateau State. The call that Inspector General of Police IGP Kayode Adeolu Egbeto compared the NPM was in Plateau State to conduct on-the-spot assessment of the affected areas, replacing tactical strategies to bring to book the perpetrators of these attacks. These strategies are already yielding results. Our 3 suspects who are members of a gun-running syndicate linked to the attacks have been apprehended and are currently in police custody assisting with the investigation. The suspects are Hamel Sulaiman, Balikisu Aliyu, and Aboki Samuel. Upon the arrest, the following exhibits were recovered: 1 ash-colored golf car, 1 AK-47 rifle, 1 AK-49 rifle, 1,000 rounds of live ammunition, and 5 magazines.
Additionally, Adejobi highlighted the arrest of 4 individuals in connection with the bank robbery in Otukpo, Benue State, where 9 AK-47 rifles were recovered. Also, during a confrontation at the hideout in Tarako Village, Buruku local government area of Borno State, 5 suspects succumbed to the superior firepower of police operative. Furthermore, a 3-man gang of car snatchers from Lagos was paraded, with 1 member attributing their criminal activities to the prevailing economic challenges.
The IGP is making sure that we take charge of some of these operations. We are even planning to float some operations to tackle some of these insecurity we experience in some areas across the country. The IGP is working hard as has flagged off a segment of special intervention squad in Plateau State, which is under the direct supervision of AIG in charge of Zone 4 in Makurdi, who has been temporarily located to Jos in Plateau State to oversee the special operations we are doing to make sure we restore peace back to affected areas in Bokos, back in Ladi, Mango, and other areas of Plateau State.
However, the Inspector General of Police reiterated the commitment of the Nigerian Police Force in ensuring the safety and security of the citizens by relentlessly cracking down on criminals and criminally related activities, as well as continue to work tirelessly to ensure Nigeria is a safe space for everyone. Kikelomo Okere, Global Television News.
The Kogi State government said 6 persons have been arrested in connection to the harassment of a member of the National Assembly who came on a courtesy visit to the governor in his Lugard House office in Lokoja, the state capital. The governor has subsequently banned unauthorized persons from accessing the government house while calling for the immediate prosecution of the culprits. This is contained in a statement issued on Wednesday by the governor's chief press secretary, Onogu Mohammed. The governor charged security agencies to investigate the issue thoroughly and ensure that the offenders face the full wrath of the law. The Nigerian Labour Congress NLC has suspended the planned state delegate conference in Imo indefinitely. NLC General Secretary Emma Obuaja made the announcement on Wednesday in Abuja in a statement addressed to all Congress affiliates. Obuaja said the suspension of the conference in Imo was due to unforeseen circumstances in the state. The Congress had earlier informed all that the conference was scheduled to be held on January 10th in 3 states. The state councils under the leadership of the caretaker committees include Abia, Imo, and Osun states. The Divisional Police Officer of Gowon Estate Division in Lagos State has been removed for allegedly detaining a lawyer who was seeking justice for his client. The command's public relations officer, SP Benjamin Hundian, confirmed the removal in a statement today. According to Hundian, the Commissioner of Police Lagos State Command, Adegoke Fayode, ordered the immediate removal of the officer from the division. The CP had earlier ordered a thorough investigation into the matter upon receipt of the publication. The Lagos-based lawyer Olumide Sunupe was hospitalized after detention by the police. A senior counsel in the matter told the press that the Apex Court directed each party not to have more than 2 lawyers in attendance. Bauchi state government has solicited support from the Tertiary Education Trust Fund for its state-owned institutions to train technical manpower in agriculture, oil and gas, and other fields critical to national development. The state governor, Bala Mohammed, who made the appeal during the visit to TETFON in Abuja, stressed the importance of human capital development in confronting challenges of underdevelopment, poverty, and unemployment. A statement released by the fund on Wednesday quoted Mohammed, noting that the state requires support for its newly established College of Education Technical, as well as intervention in vocational training, where artisans, craftsmen, bricklayers, and welders will be trained. Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu has urged the men's football team, the Super Eagles, to win the upcoming Total Energies CAF African Cup of Nations tournament, stating that the triumph of the Super Eagles would bring succor to the citizens. The governor noted that the victory would help revigorate people who have to face economic crisis, particularly the effect of fuel subsidy removal. Sanwo-Olu also encouraged the players not to rest on their oars, as it takes determination and team spirit to win competitions. The governor gave the charge when he hosted the team to a special dinner at the Lagos House Marina before the team's departure to Côte d'Ivoire for the AFCON tournament, which is slated to commence on Saturday, January 13. The Federal High Court in Abuja has declared Senator Samuel Anyanwu as the valid National Secretary of the People's Democratic Party, PDP. Delivering the judgment, Justice Inya Ukwo of the court made an order of injunction restraining the national leadership of the PDP from appointing any person as acting National Secretary when Anyanwu's 4-year tenure is still running and subsisting until December 9, 2025, in line with the party's constitution. Justice Ekwo also declared that any meeting held or resolution reached by the party to prematurely remove or prevent Anyanwu from exercising the powers of his office would be in violation of Article 47, subsection 1 of the PDP Constitution as amended in 2017, hence becomes null and void and of no effect. Chairman and Chief Executive Officer, National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, Brigadier General Mohammed Buba Marwa, retired, has said that the upgrade of the forensic laboratory of the agency by the United States Bureau of International Narcotics and Law Enforcement Affairs will enhance operational standard and optimal performance of the NDLEA in its renewed fight against substance abuse and illicit drug trafficking in Nigeria. Marwa, who stated this in Lagos on Wednesday, said the facility is anticipating the provision of state-of-art analytical equipment to enhance optimal performance in line with standard operational laboratory procedures and best practices, which in turn will enhance evidence-based analytical processes in forensic analysis. The NDLEA boss, who was represented at the event by the agency's Director of Media and Advocacy, Femi Babafemi, emphasized the importance of modern forensic laboratories to the successful fight against illicit drugs in the country. You're watching AM News live from Nigeria's capital, Abuja. We are on Star Times channel 276. Kindly follow us on all social media platforms using @Global TV NG and other handles now showing on your screen. When the AM News returns, Customs sees contrabands worth 10 billion naira in 2023. The news continues shortly with details of these and more stories right after this break. Please stay with us. Back from the break. This is Global Television bringing you live broadcast of the AM News. Thank you for staying with us. The Supreme Court on Wednesday dismissed an appeal by the Social Democratic Party and its candidate in the Adamawa governorship election, Omar Ado. This came after the counsel for the candidate prayed the courts to withdraw the case. The five-member panel led by John Okoro subsequently dismissed the appeal. The Court of Appeal in Abuja and the tribunal had dismissed Ado's petition challenging the victory of Ahmadu Fintiri. Fintiri is now left with the appeal filed by the All Progressive Congress and its candidate, Aishatu Dahiru, seeking to be declared the governor of the state. A federal high court in Abuja on Wednesday ordered the remand of a former Minister of Power and Steel, Olu Agunloye, in Kuje Correctional Service. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission arraigned Agunloye over allegations of fraud in the Mambila Power Project. Agunloye was brought before the Federal High Court in Abuja on Wednesday, where he pleaded not guilty to the charges read against him. The judge, however, ordered that the embattled former minister be remanded pending when his bail would be granted. The Lagos State Microenterprise Support Initiative, through the State Ministry of Women Affairs and Poverty Alleviation, WAPA, gave out various working tools to at least 1,000 beneficiaries on Tuesday. At least 11,885 participants have benefited from the Lagos State Government Micro Enterprise Support Scheme, MESSI, across 19 skills acquisition centers in the last 4 years in Lagos. Meanwhile, so far, about 18,092 students have graduated from the various Lagos State acquisition centers from 2019 until date. Also empowered in the last 4 years were 4,000 widows, with a total of 8,000 widows as recipients of the various poverty alleviation programs of the state government. The Nigerian Customs Service Federal Operations Unit Zone A, Ikeja, said it made 1,119 seizures of contrabands worth 10 billion naira in 2023. The Customs Area Controller, Hussein Ajibunu, disclosed this on Wednesday while addressing journalists at the command. He said that 83,170 bags of foreign rice, equivalent to 139 trailers, were seized within the period under review, stating that last year they made 1,119 seizures worth a total duty paid value of 10 billion 395,123,943 naira, comprising bags of foreign rice, vehicles, marijuana, tramadol, used tires, poultry products, footwear, petroleum products, etc. The most prominent of the seizures is foreign parboiled rice, which amounted to 133 trailer loads, equivalent of 83,170 bags of 50 kg. In the foreign scene, UK and US naval forces have repelled the largest attack yet by Yemen's Houthi rebels on Red Sea shipping, UK Defense Secretary Grant Sharp says. Carrier-based jets and warships shot down 21 drones and missiles launched by the Iran-backed group overnight. The Houthis said they targeted a U.S. ship in retaliation for the killing of rebels who tried to attack a container ship by using speedboats last month. Sharp said he had no doubt that Iran was heavily behind such attacks. The Niger Republic military dictators have freed the wife and son of the ousted President Mohamed Bazoum. The military junta, led by General Abdurrahmani Tiani, removed Bazoum from power on July 26, 2023 through a coup. The toppled president, alongside his wife Khadija and 22-year-old son Salem, were detained under house arrest, according to reports. Bazoum's wife and son were released provisionally by the junta. However, the junta was silent on the fate of Bazoum. In business, the federal government, through the Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment, has engaged major companies under the pioneer status of the National Sugar Master Plan in collaborative terms to curtail the rising price of sugar and improve the capacity of local sugar production in Nigeria. This was disclosed by the Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Doris Ozuka Inyete, after a tour of the sugar companies. The minister, in a statement on Wednesday, said the move is to maintain the price stability of the product, especially during the upcoming Ramadan period. She further stated that the sugar refineries pledged is clear demonstration of their alignment with the government effort to bolster the agricultural sector for food security and pledged the full support of the government to the growth of the sector. Chief of Naval Staff Vice Admiral Emmanuel Gala has ascribed the increase in daily oil production in the country from 700,000 barrels per day to 1.7 million barrels to the good job done by the officers and men of the Nigerian Navy in the oil-producing areas. Ogala, who stated this when he paid a familiarization visit to officers and the naval ratings at the Central Naval Command, Yenagoa Bayelsa, urged the troops operating in the territorial areas of the Niger Delta to step up their operations to record more successes. Nigeria and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia have resolved to strengthen collaboration between both countries to enhance the development of solid minerals as the world transits from fossil fuel to cleaner energy. Meeting on the sidelines of the Future Minerals Forum holding in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, the Minister of Solid Minerals Development, Dili Al-Akeh, and his Saudi Arabian counterpart, Badr Akarariyov, led the delegations of both countries to the bilateral meeting. The minister harped on the need to forge partnership, emphasizing that global energy transition is contingent on critical minerals, which he stated exist in abundance in Nigeria. Kikelomo Okere has the rest of the story.
Speaking at the event, the Minister of Solid Mineral Development says there is need for investment in exploration, exploitation, extraction, processing, local value addition, adding that it is imperative to look at the region outside of Africa to collaborate, further consolidate and enhance the capacity in exploring and exploiting the natural resources that Nigeria have.
In the super region is quite significant for us because we believe that in the super region there is collaborative efforts not just in terms of investment, but in terms of knowledge sharing, technological transfer, and sustainable investment environment, creating, impacting socially, socio-economic positivities, and more importantly for us in Africa, local value addition. For a long time, and for centuries, Africa has been the breadbasket of raw materials extraction. And the investment focus has always been exploitation via extraction and exploitation, leaving us to holding the shorter end of the stick.
Speaking further, Alake made a case for investment in local value addition involving processing of solid minerals that will culminate in production and establishment of factories in Nigeria, which he noted will generate employment and have a multiplier effect on the economy. He emphasized the readiness of the Nigerian team to work with the Saudi Arabian counterpart to fine-tune specifics and map out strategies to concretize area of collaboration within a specified time frame.
The idea of a super region is quite significant for us in order to harness these mosaic distinctive mineral resources that are within the confines of the super region, and therefore achieve a sustainable energy investment and energy demand and supply for the world.
Throwing light on incentive for investment, Alake cited the policies of President Bola Tinubu on repatriation of profits by foreign investment, tax waivers on imported equipment specifically directed at the mining sector, and a rigid security architecture which he hinted will soon come on stem to effectively secure mining areas in the country. However, both countries thereafter resolved to set up a joint technical committee to follow through in area of partnership coupled with a workable action plan guided by timeline to enhance areas of comparative advantage for mining sector development. Kike Lomo Ukeri, Global Television News.
That's it on AM News, and it came to you live from Nigeria's capital, Abuja. We're on Star Times channel 276. Kindly follow us across all social media platforms using the Global TV NG and other handles now showing on your screen. I am Anthony Momodu saying thank you for watching and see you again.